What is going on, everybody? I am back today to talk about a new movie that dropped on Shudder recently. That, to be honest, I didn't realize that it was coming out, and I was very excited once I learned that it was being released because this movie is directed by Steven Kostanski. And if you guys have been watching my YouTube channel for a while now, in several list videos and multiple times, I've referenced one of my favorite horror comedies of the decade so far, and that is Steven Kostanski's Psycho Goreman. I love everything about that movie. I think it's incredibly charming, it's ridiculously funny, and it just nails its concept. But on top of that, it has truly some of the best practical effects that I've seen in the past several years. And just the attention to detail and the production design and the creature development, just everything about that. Steven is clearly a director who has a clear passion for what he's doing, and he also clearly has a frame of reference for the type of movies he enjoys to make and the type of style that he wants to put out there. And I think that it's really incredible just how unique his work is. And I've been able to watch some of his other material. I thought it was really cool to watch a film like The Void, where he worked with a co-director, but just like the attentiveness in the practical effects in a movie like that, that's just much more straightforward science fiction without the comedy edge. And I know he's done quite a bit in his career, so I was really looking forward to seeing what the next step would be after Psycho Goreman, and I'm really looking forward to telling you about Frankie Freako today. Frankie Freako is directed by Steven Kostanski. After calling a late-night party hotline that promises out-of-this-world fun, uptight yuppie Conor Sweeney must battle the pint-sized forces of evil unleashed through his phone line, led by the maniacal rock and roll goblin, Frankie Freako. So, I was really looking forward to watching this movie. Didn't really know what to expect after Psycho Goreman, other than I figured that it would be downright ridiculous and hilarious. And boy, oh boy, was I right. This movie is absurd. It's incredibly silly, over the top, ridiculous. It's clearly paying homage to a lot of different movies. But what I loved so much about this is the passion in it, the attentiveness to detail, and like the puppeteering, the practical effects, the miniatures in this movie. Just truly remarkable stuff. I absolutely loved that about this movie. It's clear that, like Psycho Goreman, Steven Kostanski had a very specific vision for this movie, and he executes it in a way that it's just impossible not to be impressed with. And I'm excited to tell you a little bit about it today. So, at the beginning of the movie, we are introduced to Connor, who, as the plot description states, is a pretty boring guy. He works an office job, and his boss, Mr. Buchler, played by Adam Brooks, who is also in Psycho Goreman, who is one of my favorite parts of the Kostanski universe. Just a truly, truly ridiculous actor who does an amazing job with his deadpan dialogue delivery. They have a really strange workplace dynamic, but he's telling him, like, hey, you're up for this promotion, but you need to work harder for it, otherwise you're not going to get it. And there's just this really funny plot dynamic that's introduced between the two of those characters. And so we get introduced to his life. He's married to Christina. Their relationship is incredibly hilarious. She's his super attractive wife that there's no real reason that you could piece together that the two of these people ended up together, but she genuinely seems to love him despite his absurdity and his blandness. And we get introduced to his day-to-day dynamic, and he is frustrated that people in his life see him as boring and bland. And he's up late one night and he sees an ad on TV to call a hotline to get into contact with Frankie Freako, who promises you the greatest party of your life. And at first he kind of puts it off, but as things sort of like get worse and worse for his life, he's like, you know what? I might as well take a risk on it. And he calls the hotline, and Frankie Freako and his two friends show up. And the entirety of the film is the series of events that occurs after Connor meets Frankie Freako and his two friends. So, like I said, I genuinely loved this movie, and there's a multiple number of reasons why. But I want to talk about, for starters, what I love so much about this, and similarly to Psycho Goreman, it's the love and attention to detail and the practical effects and the creature designs. Frankie Freako looks like a strange, abnormal garbage pail kid almost. Like, just the coolest character design imaginable. The puppeteering was so great in this movie. Just like everything about it had this. It was this aesthetic from a very specific time period that I think Kostanski nails it without it feeling nostalgia baity. Like it feels like its own thing, despite paying homage to a different era. I kept thinking of like Gremlins too, where it's just like you have these characters that are being puppeteered, and like it's so much more difficult than just making something that's computer generated. And every single time they were on screen, there was just so much charm that emulated from it. And that's what I love about Kostanski as a filmmaker. He doesn't have to go this route. And when you're looking at the credits of the movie and you see he directed the thing, he edited the thing, and was supervising over the special effects and like making sure that all the practical effects were like, he must be crazy because I could not imagine juggling all that. But there's so much attentiveness to detail. And then when you learn about the Freako world and are transported into the Freako world, the miniatures and all of the different characters that show up there, just really remarkable how immersive this world is. And like that's what just kept impressing me, was as the film kept getting more and more out of control, I felt like the detail and the practical effects and the world and the miniatures that are used, it just got better and better and better as the movie progressed. And it's really remarkable what Steven pulls off here, and it's one of the things I love the most about it. As far as the performances here, I loved just how deadpan and absurd the human characters in this movie are. Like Connor, at first I was like, is this going to come across as annoying or is it going to really work? And Kostanski plays so heavily into the stereotypes of these characters, especially him being kind of bland and square, and like the things that are said about his character. And it just gets funnier and funnier as the movie goes on. And I think like the dynamic between him and his wife and him and his boss is just truly one of the things that makes the movie so hilarious. And then Frankie Freako and his friends, like one of his friends has a one-liner that he says over and over again. It's like Shabadoo. And at first I was like, okay, is this going to get really annoying? And it doesn't. It gets kind of stuck in your head like an earworm. And it's really funny. And it just feels like something from a very specific time period. And I think the voice actors all do a really great job. I was really excited as a diehard fan of Red Letter Media for a really long time. The guys from Red Letter Media all have a part in this movie, and even if it's a small part, I really loved hearing them involved in this. I feel like this project kind of just screams what they love about movies, and just like making a passion project and creating something that you can really enjoy. And I liked that about this movie. I think that it worked really well to have so many voice actors and actors that seem to genuinely care about the project and put a lot into the performances. As per Kostanski's usual, this thing gets incredibly violent and over the top and ridiculous, like Psycho Goreman. Not necessarily as bloody as PG is, but this movie does have some really great action scenes that work really well, especially when they're in the Freako world and they're fighting these like robot henchmen of the lead villain. There's just a lot of charm and whimsy and how the violence plays out. There's an absurd scene early on where Frankie and his friends are like setting up traps in Connor's basement for him, and just like the comedic punchline of where certain things are placed in the frame, just really fantastic stuff. It brought a big smile to my face while I was watching it. I really liked that a lot about the movie, and it's just a really kind of silly, turn your brain off experience. I do really like, there's little things that you can unpack with the movie where you look at the Freako characters that have been taken over by this evil person who doesn't want them to live as their authentic selves. And when you see the Freakos like get in someone's life, they kind of help unlock all of the parts of themselves that they've been locking up and kind of holding back. And I think there's a really kind of cute, wholesome message underneath the ridiculous absurdity of it all. And it's very, very silly and brash and ridiculous, but that's what I like about Kostanski. He's willing to completely and totally go for it. And I don't feel like there are a lot of directors out there who would be willing to just take a swing and make something like this, because this isn't going to hit like a big audience market, and like everyone that watches this movie is going to think, oh, this is the greatest thing ever made. But it is made for freaks, people like me that like really absurd, weird, strange, over the top, funny horror comedies with a lot of love and passion for the filmmaking. Even the cinematography in this movie and the attention to detail in the lighting, it just really captures that very specific time period. And I had a a blast with this movie. I already can't wait to watch it again. And if any of this sounds interesting to you, I'd highly recommend you check this movie out. So have you seen Frankie Freako? Did you love it? Did you hate it? Leave me a comment down below and let me know what you thought. I thought this movie was absolutely incredible. I loved it and I'm already excited to watch it again. As always, if you can like the video and subscribe to the channel, helps me out a lot and lets me know the type of content you're looking for. I'm always putting out new material and look forward to getting more out for you in the near future. And as always, everyone, thank you so much for watching and have a great rest of your day.